Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Sayyidina wa maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Today we're on hadith number 11. On the authority of Abu Muhammad al-Hasan bin Ali bin Abu Talib, the grandson of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and who is dearest to him radiallahu anhuma, who said, I committed to memory from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, leave that about which you are in doubt for that about which you are in no doubt. This is reported by Al-Tirmidhi and An-Nasa'i, and Al-Tirmidhi classified it as an authentic hadith. In this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ has set a standard by which Muslims can decide whether something is permissible or not. There is another version of this hadith where the Prophet ﷺ elaborated further by saying, verily truth is tranquility and falsehood is doubt. This standard set by the Prophet ﷺ allows us to navigate between right and wrong. This hadith lays down a principle that can be applied in all aspects of one's life. This hadith indicates that one should only perform an act or deed if he is positive or certain of it, and doing so will lead to happiness in this life and the hereafter. In the other version of this hadith mentioned previously, falsehood leads to doubt and never to tranquility. The heart of the true believer is at peace at the sight of truth, and the heart becomes unsure at the sight of falsehood and wrong. We can conclude that this criterion applies only to the rightly guided Muslim who is enlightened by Wahi, which is the Quran and Sunnah, and is following its guidance. If a Muslim engages in forbidden acts, then this method can't work for him because his heart won't be sensitive to what it faces. For example, if someone goes to the bar and drinks regularly, how do you think their morality will be? If their heart doesn't object to an action which is clearly haram, then how can their heart feel uneasy when it comes to the doubtful matters? The guideline mentioned in the hadith can only be applied if the person is adhering to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only then can a person reach such a level where their heart can distinguish between right and wrong. But for those who indulge in muharramat, prohibitions, and don't observe the wajibat, the obligations, then they cannot judge what is lawful and unlawful. There are several Islamic matters or issues where the scholars have conflicting views or opinions. For example, one issue is whether a woman should pay zakat on her jewelry. There is no consensus over whether a woman has to pay zakat for jewelry that she wears and uses, and not just for those that she keeps in for investment. In these situations, can the Muslim apply the criterion of this hadith? According to some scholars, it is permissible to do so. This is known as the cautious approach. This became a very well-known approach for some scholars who used it whenever there were conflicting views. In the case of zakat for jewelry, the cautious approach is that it is better to pay the zakat for all jewelry, whether it is worn or not, so that the woman will be safe either way. There is another approach of the scholars which holds that it is not a matter of conflicting views. It is a matter of the authenticity and the soundness of the proofs. We use the Quran and Hadith to navigate such Islamic issues. The Quran and Hadith cannot be looked at independently of each other, and the Hadith have their own levels of strength. There's three types of Hadith: Sahih, Hasan, and Da'if. Sahih means sound and authentic. Hasan is just good or acceptable, and Da'if is a weak Hadith. The Sahih Sitha are the 6 authentic Hadith collections: Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, Nasa'i, and Ibn Majah. The collections of Bukhari and Muslim carry the most weight. If there is a sound dalil from the Quran or Hadith, the scholars will follow it. This approach is also practiced by those who follow strictly one madhab, because the madhab follows a dalil. There's also many situations which consist of both good and bad. The cautious approach suggests that we avoid an act if it involves both good and bad aspects. The approach which follows the dalil applies the concept of weighing benefits and harms. This involves applying principles derived from the Quran and Hadith. These principles state that it is permissible to give up a minor benefit in order to avoid a major harm. For example, you skip the Hajj prayer because you think that staying up that late will cause you to miss Fajr prayer, which is an obligation. The approach of following a dalil also allows for tolerating a minor harm in order to avoid a major one or to gain a major benefit. For example, Ibn al-Qayyim said, I heard Shaykh al-Islam bin Taymiyyah saying, I and some of my companions saw the Mongols drinking khamr. My companions tried to stop the Mongols, but Ibn Taymiyyah stopped them and said, Sharab is haram because it stops you from dhikr and salah, but it has stopped them from killing, taking captives, and looting. Looking back on Islamic history, we can see that some scholars were for one approach, while other scholars were for the other. So it's not our responsibility to determine what the better approach is. In the situation of conflicting views, when there's something known for sure and something which is doubtful, what is known for sure will take precedence. This is one of the principles of fiqh. For example, if we know a piece of clothing has impurity on it, but we're not sure exactly where, it's better to wash the entire garment. Another example is if a person is doubtful about how many rakats he has already prayed, whether it's one or two, he should continue the prayer with what he is certain of. He's sure that he's prayed one rakat, so he should continue with the second one. There's no righteousness or piety in avoiding something that is clearly permissible. For example, on the authority of Aisha radiallahu anha, Allah's Messenger used to drink honey in the house of Zainab and would stay there with her. So Hafsa and I agreed secretly that if he came to either of us, she would say to him, it seems you have eaten maghafir, which is a kind of bad smelling food. For I smell in you maghafir. We did so and he replied, no, but I was drinking honey in the house of Zainab, and I shall never take it again. I have taken an oath as to that, and you should not tell anybody about it. Then the verse was revealed, O Prophet, why do you forbid yourself that which Allah has allowed for you, seeking the approval of your wives? There is another hadith that tells the story of three men. One vowed not to sleep so he can pray all night. One vowed to fast every day, and one vowed not to marry, all for the sake of righteousness. These actions, which these men forbade themselves from doing, are all lawful things, which were not only permitted but also encouraged. When the Prophet ﷺ heard of these three men's vows, he was very disappointed. He ﷺ called them and told them he was the most righteous and pious amongst them, and yet he sleeps, eats, and marries. Moreover, the Prophet ﷺ made a principle concerning this matter by saying, this is my way, and whoever refrains from it is not part of me. Shaykh Jamaluddin, in his commentaries on Imam an-Nawawi's 40 hadith, said that in these current times, there are many matters in business transactions where there might contain some implicit aspects of riba. As a result, there are many new situations or issues where people are confused as to whether something is acceptable or not. Regarding acts which you are unsure of or issues where scholars haven't yet reached a clear judgment, the Shaykh says that it is better to avoid these situations altogether. We should all try to keep ourselves informed with the latest views or opinions of the scholars, especially on matters related to our lifestyle today, such as banking and insurance. Seeking knowledge is essential to approaching these doubtful matters. This hadith gives Muslims a practical method by which to judge doubtful acts and situations and enables them to make the right decision concerning these matters. However, Muslims need to understand how to apply such a criterion correctly and not to be deceived by wrong perceptions or personal interests. Jazakumullahu khairan. Alhamdulillah.